Hey, it's James from Marketing for Restaurants here, and welcome to episode 80 of Secret Sauce, the restaurant marketing podcast, the 4 Ps of restaurant marketing.
Some restaurants are quiet, lose money, and the owner works 70 hours a week. Other restaurants are busy, profitable, and the owners work a few hours a day. What's the difference? They have a secret sauce. Join James from Marketing for Restaurants as he helps you come up with your recipe for restaurant success, your secret sauce.
So everyone, good morning. Hope you're going to have a glorious day today. I hope you got something out of the last couple of podcasts where we talked about our jaunt through Singapore and a whole heap of other Asian countries where we ate some amazing food, went to some amazing restaurants, and we also missed out on going to some restaurants because, their marketing just wasn't up to scratch. So what I thought I would do with this podcast is I would actually break down one of the old theories of marketing, and that is the 4 Ps of marketing, and then go through how it relates to your restaurant. So the 4 Ps, it's been around for a long time, and we talk about it as being the product, price, place, and promotion of what it is that you're trying to do. It has been around for a long time. In fact, it's been around since 1948. So there was a professor, James Cullerton, he was a professor of marketing at Harvard University, and he released an article in 1948 that talked about the management of marketing costs. And he talked about marketers as being the mixers of ingredients. Now, one of his colleagues, Professor Neil Borden, he published an article that talked about the early history of the marketing mix. And he says that he was inspired by Cullerton's ideas of marketers as being mixers, and that he popularized the idea of the marketing mix. And so it's been in a lot of people's minds since, sort of around the mid-1950s. Now, a lot of people have done a lot of work on it. There's now the 7 Ps and the 4 Cs and all of those sort of things. And I think realistically, all it is a way of looking at what it is that you do. What you want to do is you want to get a good understanding of the 4 Ps. All it has to do is trigger some questions in your head. Now, when do you want these questions to be triggered? Ideally before you open, ideally before you have solidified your business plan, well before you have solidified your marketing plan. But as we know, that's probably not the case because it seems most people start off with a business plan that's written on one page, if that, or it's all in my head. I hear that a bit. And the marketing plan, the food's so great here, everyone's just going to come. And of course, you need to be open for 6 months to realize that, unless you're in the top 2%, then that's never going to happen. So that's when you fall back and you think, holy cow, I need to start coming up with a marketing plan. Now, it's at that point that you should ideally be thinking about the marketing mix. If you haven't started to think about it beforehand, failing that, this is a way that you can tweak what it is that you do. Some people offer takeout because, everyone else offers takeout. They don't really have a good understanding of what it is that takeout offers, what it is that customers are buying when they buy takeout, and what it is that they should be pricing into the product that they have when they're giving takeout. So that's just a really quick example of how you would use the marketing mix to tweak basically the mix of marketing that you're doing, the way that you look at the product, price, and promotion of your products. And of course, we're doing all of these things to impact 2 really important things. Revenue, of course, is a big thing, but much more importantly, profit. It's the profitability of your restaurant that you really want to be working on, because that's the fundamental thing that's going to be able to drive the resources that you have to grow your business. And if you don't have enough profit coming in, then you're going to be the poor bunny who's picking up all of the hours in your restaurant. Now, the first one that we're going to start off with is product. So what is the item that satisfies the consumers' needs or wants. So now your product can be something that people eat, or it could be, so that's something tangible, something that you can touch, or interestingly enough, it could be something that you can't touch. Now that is going to be things like the service, that could be the idea, that could be the experience that you deliver in your restaurant. And this is one of those interesting things that I say, don't sell food because you can get food in a lot of different places. Sell an experience, because where there's experience, there's margin. Is it going to be a quick service restaurant? Is it speed that you're selling? If you're doing breakfast on Monday to Friday and you're targeting people who are on their way to work, speed is a huge factor. This is why we have drive-thrus, because speed is one of the things that your customers are going to be wanting. They don't want to be spending 25 minutes because that means they've got to get up 25 minutes earlier. They would ideally, you deliver it to the car while they are traveling 100 kilometres, 60 miles an hour down the highway. That would be the perfect world. That's probably a little bit difficult to do. Maybe it's ready for them. You deliver it to them just as they're walking out the door. Now, obviously, these are really difficult things to do. But when you start thinking about, well, I'm providing someone with a meal that's very quick at breakfast time as they're going on the way to work, that really does tell you then that the speed is going to be absolutely paramount. And I see this all the time. I see people where there'll be a queue of 10 people in a restaurant and they're waiting, might just be waiting for a coffee. It can be as simple as just in a cafe waiting for a coffee, and there's 10 people there and they're all getting really miffed because of the fact that they're waiting to get the coffee. Now, they're going to be late. Their boss is going to yell at them because they were late in getting their coffee. That's not the product. And they're going to directly blame you, because the product that they want is, here is some money, can I please have a coffee now and go, because I've got to get to work. I was walking down the street a while ago and I saw, and it was probably about 8:30, and there was someone who was furiously working a coffee machine and they had 8 coffees lined up. Now, I loved that. The transaction was a 30-second transaction. It was an even amount of money. I can't remember. I think it was $4 or it might have even been $2. It was actually quite cheap. It was a small coffee. It might have been $2, which is a simple coin to get out. And they were lined up ready to go. So if you want a 30-second coffee, that is the place where you're going to get a 30-second coffee. Now, this is a really perfect example of, we talk about the marketing mix and how you're going to be mixing these ingredients. So what product is it? Well, is it a flat white? Is it a chai latte? Is it a double decaffeinated half calf with a twist of lemon? No, it was a flat white. That was it, flat white. Do you want a flat white? Here it is. Here's your flat white, good to go. No choices. So what they had done is they dialed down the product range whilst they dialed up the convenience. Interesting. Is it burgers, sandwiches, Mexican, Indian? How does that fit in with one of the things that you want to start thinking about when you're thinking about product is you don't want to be cooking what you like. You want to be cooking what your consumers want. So what are the demographics of the people that you are going to target? What are the demographics of the people who live in the nearby area? What are the demographics of the people who walk by your restaurant of a morning, of a lunchtime, of an evening? Do those demographics change? Do you need to think about the products that you're going to that you're going to sell to those different people as they walk by at different times of the day? Now, a great example of that would be an upmarket restaurant that is near a school. So from 1:30, when the lunch crowd is starting to move out, they will then sort of change into a cafe where they have got a nucleus of mums who are coming in ready to pick up their kids. And there are some places that do a really good job of that. Big school next door, they will, here's some nice carrot cake, here's a nice coffee, sit down with the girls and have a bit of a chat. The beautiful thing about that is, the restaurant's got to be open anyway. You're in there doing prep for dinner. You've got one person in front of house, maybe someone doing coffees. You're turning over a little bit of revenue. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, one of the big issues we see is that people say, I want to create this kind of restaurant. And they do that based on their experiences, how it is in their mind that they see this restaurant panning out. And that is done with absolutely zero thinking about the kind of people who are going to eat there and zero thinking about the kind of people who are actually in the local area. You also want to look at what else is available. That's going to start coming into your competitor analysis. If you are going to create a pizza shop and there are 8 pizza shops in the local area, some of which have been around for 25 years and have incredibly loyal customers, unless you have a crushingly good competitive advantage, and I mean it needs to be really, really powerful, maybe do you want to be competing against 8 pizza shops saying, and we also sell pizzas? Or do you want to be offering an alternative to pizza? Do you think that there's an opportunity to drag people away from pizza? And we see this quite a bit, where there's an absolute saturation of one type of cuisine, and then people go, this is a really popular area for Indian food or pizza, there's a whole heap of them here. And it's just like, yes, but how successful are all of them? And do you want to be fighting in that battle to try and get all of these loyal customers to be coming across to you? Probably not. When you're thinking about the product, and let's just say the burger, what kind of burger is it going to be? What are the features of that burger? Now, are you going to be using locally grown tomato? So we got the tomatoes from Farmer Bob. Are they organic tomatoes? Are you offering vegan alternatives? Are you offering dairy-free, nut allergy, FODMAP, all of those sort of things? Celiac disease, are you catering for those? Plus or minus. Now, I'm not saying that you should, but any stretch of the imagination. What I'm saying is that you should consider it. We've got customers who are actively not anti-celiac disease, but they're out to educate people about how it's probably not as big an issue as some people think. Now, that's part of their marketing ploy. They're actually saying the good things that gluten brings to the table. Now, product assortment. So what's the product range? And so the good example is that the cafe that just sells flat whites. If you want a quick coffee, you can have any coffee that you want as long as it's a flat white. Now, that's an old marketing adage that came from Henry Ford. Are you going to do one or two things? Now, the great thing about doing one or two things, so that cafe, they went with a flat white so that they could have, it makes it a lot easier. What they wanted to do is they wanted to build up an inventory so that you could just grab your flat white and go. They didn't want to be working out, who wants what sugar, who wants what special milk. Do you want to focus on just one thing? Now, their flat white wasn't the best flat white in the world. It was a quick flat white. That was the thing that was about their product mix. Do you want to do one or two things? So Chan Hong Meng in chicken rice, Hong Kong soy sauce, chicken rice and noodle. He does chicken rice and noodles. Like they're the 3 things that he does. That's it. Nothing else. He's been doing that for 20 years. That's what has made him really, really good. He's continually refined that. And you find that in food trucks and food stalls. There are some people who are there who have just got absolutely killer recipes because it's all they cook. And they have just slowly refined that process over time. Or do you want to have 250 items on the menu? I've been to, and I think Chinese restaurants, they're probably fairly guilty of this. They seem to want to have every cuisine from every part of China. Now, I always think that there's 2 problems with that. One is that I'm the poor bunny who's sitting there going, oh, well, here's 10 items that I want to really think about. So can I just have another 10 minutes with this menu? Because I really, I want to get the best meal possible, and it's going to take me some time to whittle down through these items. That's the one issue, is that, people are spending so much longer with the menu in their hand, which makes it harder if you're trying to turn the tables. How many times do you want to get people through the restaurant? You're aiming for 1, 2, 3 or 4, even more if it's QSR in a sitting. Now, the other thing is, what are you really good at? You haven't said, this is the chef's signature dish. This is, he's poured his heart and soul into it. It's a recipe that his grandmother was cooking. We've selected the best ingredients, and we would really love to demonstrate our culinary technique by cooking you this one dish, which is really, this is what our restaurant is about. It's this one thing. The essence of our restaurant is in this dish. You should definitely try that. When you got 250 items, you've just thrown a whole heap of ingredients at a wall and who knows what's going to come out. It's very hard to say that you're a specialist in anything. Now, packaging and labelling, that's part of the product. It's part of the branding. And just a little side note on this. I see so many restaurants who will have the delivery guy will have a Just Eat warmer bag for the product. And on top of that, the bag will be handed over to you with a menu log or Just Eat or Uber Eats, whoever it is. They've all got them. They're all providing you with these things. And I know Menu Log in Australia, they provide those bags for free, just pay a small delivery fee and they'll ship those bags to you. Well, they're building their brand, not yours. And yes, it's a little bit more expensive, but I think it's much, much, much better if it's in a plain brown bag than having the branding of one of your partners, in air quotes, more likely a competitor. You don't want to be building anyone else's brand apart from your own. So I'd be putting it in a brown paper bag, if nothing else. What you should be doing, though, is on the packaging, why is this the best burger? What is it that you've done to make this the best burger? What's the menu? You could print the menu on the side of it, so people have always got it there. People are sitting there, they're eating into the burger, and it's some awesome burger that you've cooked for them, and they're looking through and going, you know what? There's 3 other burgers that I'd really like to try because this is epic, and I think the description of those other 2 sounds really, really epic. So I'm probably going to have this next Friday night. Now, you just turned a new customer into a repeat customer, just with a little bit of packaging. And a little bit of branding. So the service, we've talked about expediting the food. Is it a hole-in-the-wall restaurant? Is it fast food? Do you provide table service? How good is the table service? When was the last time you went through your reports out of your POS system to have a look at what people are buying? How popular are the menu items? What is it that's out there? And I think there's a lot of things that you can do with Facebook to virtually test what it is that consumers would like. If you're thinking, how often do you rotate the menu? Because rotating the menu is one of the reasons that people will come back because they want to try a new menu item. And I was out at dinner on Saturday night and we were talking about menu changes. And one of the interesting concepts, of course, is if you've got a favourite dish that, the chef's a little bit tired of cooking, then of course you can have, a farewell. This is going to be the last month that we're going to be cooking our signature dish. If it's been one of your favourites, then please come on in. Next month, we've got a new dish coming up. That's a 2-for-1 because your existing customers are going to come in to taste their favourite dish before it comes off the menu, and then they're going to come in again to taste its replacement. Cycling through the menu is something that not a lot of people do. You can test what is going to be a hit before you actually start cooking it up by advertising on Facebook. We're thinking of doing a lamb dish next month. Would you be interested in that? Or we can do the lamb this way or that way. What do you think? We're thinking of we want a new signature burger. What is it that we should do? One thing that I love, Nick Sorello at Nick's Pizza and Pub, each month they will have a recipe that's been designed by a customer. And they tell the story of that customer in there. Now, if you're trying to build a community around your restaurant, I can't think of a better way than letting your customers design the menu items. That's an amazing way of doing that. And it really builds engagement with your customers because someone's going to come in and they're going to bring their family, they're going to bring all of their friends. Hey, Nick's Pizza and Pub, they're featuring my pizza. Let's all go in and try it. It would be great. And you are the mini rock star then. And of course, when you come in, the team there are going to treat you amazingly. You probably a tour of the kitchen as they're making your pizza. These are the little tiny things, I think, that really build customers for life. And you should be thinking about that. So next on to the next P is price. And it's basics. It's what are people going to pay for the product? And it's important to so let's just stop with that statement there. It's what people are going to pay for the product. What is it that people pay for a product? And 99% of people say, well, it's how much money they're going to fork over. How much can they afford? How much are they willing to pay? What's the perceived value of the item? Well, yes and no. One of my phrases that I'll say is, well, that's 30 minutes of my life that I'm never getting back. I just paid 30 minutes or an hour in a restaurant and it was awful. The time So what is the time involved in the transaction that you're going to want to do? So there's a couple of really good examples here. Domino's Pizza, they do a lot of work around once you order your pizza, then we just started making the pizza and it's just come out of the oven and it's just, it's in the hands of the delivery guy and it's just, it's really, really close. Now the interesting thing is we think they fudge most of those. I know that when I've ordered Domino's, and I ordered pickup, of course, because, and if you haven't listened to our pricing strategies for online ordering, have a listen to that one. But you get an email with one time, then when you go into the store, you can see your order, it's got a different time, and then that time elapses and you're still waiting for your pizza. They are kind of making this stuff up as they go along, but that's all right because it gives people that perception of it. But time is one of those things because they've realised that they don't want you, if it's super busy, they want to tell you, hey, you know what, stay at home for another 5 minutes or, stay at work. Judge your timing to get here. Take your time. There's no rush because the pizza ain't going to be ready when you get here. It's going to take a little bit longer because we're a bit busy at the moment. They understand that time is part of what you sacrifice in going and picking up pizza. So there's a couple of other things that you want to think about when it comes to price. It's a part of the customer perceived value. So if this is, it's like the Prada handbag. The Prada handbag isn't really that much better made than a lot of other handbags. It's just that part of the product is the price that you pay for it. And it's that eliteness and exclusiveness. I can afford one of these bags. As opposed to, I've got the best bag in the world. It's not about having the best bag in the world. This is about signaling to people that I can afford a Prada bag or a Harley Davidson motorcycle or shoes, whatever the product is. When you get into those ultra premium brands, it's about saying, I can afford this. That's part of the perceived customer value. If it's super, super cheap, then maybe it's too cheap and people think, well, it can't be that good because if it was better, then they would charge more money for it. The big important thing about price is the only variable that has an implication for revenue. So it's the big lever that you can pull to change revenue. And it's not always, if we put the price up 10%, then we're going to increase our revenue 10%. That doesn't actually happen because what's going to happen with the number of items that you sell? Revenue is what you sell something for and the number of people that you sell. If you sell 10 meals a night for $10 each, you're going to make $100. If you put it up to $11, you may or may not sell 11. People might say, well, it's too expensive now. You might only sell 8, in which case your revenue's gone down to $88. Or people might go, you know what? It sounds like it's pretty good. Maybe this is the best whatever it is that they're cooking up here. And you might be surprised. You might sell 12 of them. So your revenue's gone up to $132, so that's a 32% increase in revenue because you put your price up 10%. There's a whole heap of psychology around that, which is really quite interesting. And there's a lot of pricing strategies that you can do. You can be the cheapest, you can be the most expensive, you can aim for a price bracket. One thing to think about is just noticeable differences. What's the difference between $9.95 and $10? It's quite a lot. It's not 5 cents. It's a lot more than 5 cents. And this is why a lot of people will charge $9.95 because it's just less than $10. $10 is, well, that's a whole note. And, that sounds like a fair bit of money. $9.95, well, it's less than $10. So it does sound flippant, but in consumers' minds, it does make a difference. And this is where you get this shadow of, if you're not going to charge $9.95, if you're actually going to charge $10, then you should probably charge $12. Because the difference between $10 and $12 may be less than the difference between $9.95 and $10. So you get this shadow. You wouldn't charge, $10.25 for something. That would be crazy. If you costed something out and you worked out your margin, if you costed things out, well, there's a bit of a joke, isn't it? God forbid that anyone would do that. But if you costed it out and you said, we want to make this much margin on it, then we're going to have to charge $10.25. Then you'd want to have a really good think. I would never do that. I'd either wear a bit of a cut on it and go down at $9.95, or I'd say, you know what, this is a $12 item and it's going to be pretty high margin for us. Now, pricing tactics. Yield utilisation, this is something that happens all of the time. Yield utilisation, this is one of those things that happens all the time. And I love using the analogy of an aircraft. You know, no one ever pays the exact same price in a plane. Well, very few people do, because the airline's looking at who you are and what it is that you want to do. If this is the last plane out of town and it's 9 o'clock at night and you've just rolled up to the ticket counter, you're probably going to pay whatever it is. It might cost you $100 to get a hotel room in the city, and you want to get home tonight. So the airline knows that there's an extra $100 in it for them, because your alternative is going to cost $100. So they'll bump the price up because they know that you're pretty keen to get there. If they have one seat left, well, you know what? We're going to sell that to, and there's 10 people who want that seat. Who's got the most money? Because we're going to sell it to you. If the plane's virtually empty, you know, then they're going to be really keen to try and drag people from whenever and wherever to get on that damn plane, because they're going to be flying that plane at a huge loss, and no one wants to do that. Restaurants do this all the time. They just don't know that they do it. The breakfast meal is cheaper than the lunch meal, and the lunch meal is cheaper than the dinner meal, because people aren't prepared to pay as much as they do for brekkie as they do for dinner. So there are places that charge $100 per person for dinner, and that's, you know, people just go, oh yeah, that's fair. I don't know. Are there any restaurants out there that charge $100 for breakfast? I don't know. I haven't seen any. There probably is. Someone will probably hit me up with an example of one, but I don't think that there is. So this yield utilisation happens quite a lot. And I think that what we're going to see is, and so in fine dining, you'll see that people will now, there's people who are charging more for a Friday and a Saturday night. They'll charge more for the peak time. So at 8, if you want to eat at 8 o'clock, it's more expensive than 5 or 10 o'clock. And don't forget happy hour. Happy hour is the, you know, probably the go-to solution for yield utilisation. Let's try and get some people in at 5 o'clock, 5:30, 6. We've got staff in there. They're doing prep anyway. You've got that easy to prepare happy hour menu. And of course, they're going to grab a few beers, which are super high margin. So we can have some money ticking over when we do that. I think that there's going to be more, and one of the things that we're working on from a bookings point of view is some yield utilisation tools there. And I think that the next thing that's happened is that we're going to go to dynamic pricing, where a restaurant will set, if for a prepaid visit, we're prepared to sell for between this price and this price. And when the tickets are open, they'll sell out some nights quicker than others, and the price will slowly creep up until you're selling that last seat for a Saturday night on the Thursday or the Friday before, and it goes for a 20, 30, 40% premium. And the pricing's there, the dynamic pricing is there. And when you go to an airline, you can say, you know, oh, I want to fly here, but I want to do it cheaply. Well, I'm going to have to take the 6 o'clock flight in the morning because no one wants to take that. Or maybe that's the flight that everyone's taking and you can't take that. The pricing, the dynamic pricing, that takes care of itself. Whatever's popular is going to cost more. I think that we're going to see a lot more in that. And I also think that we're going to start seeing that in delivery as well, where there's going to be a surcharge. Because when you think about it, most people order their takeaway on a Friday and Saturday night. And it can be the busiest times of the week. Maybe it's worthwhile putting a surcharge on those. You're not going to have it advertised as a surcharge because customers are going to be unhappy about that. But what about dynamic pricing, where, you know, for the next hour, or have it delivered after 9:30 and we'll give you a 10% discount. Move some of that away from the time when your kitchen is really busy. Offer expedited delivery. There's lots of little nuances in there that you can start to play with, which I think is really interesting. Now, so what we'll do is we'll leave it there. We've still got lots to talk about with price. And don't forget, we've still got place. And place is a really interesting one. Everyone goes, well, that's in the restaurant, isn't it? Maybe, maybe not. And then we'll finish off with promotion. So stay tuned for episode 81, where we will continue on with the 4 Ps of restaurant marketing. Adios.
Want more customers for your restaurant, cafe or takeout? Every month, our marketing tools and information are used by thousands of restaurant owners just like you to help them find more customers and turn them into repeat customers. All of our tools and information is designed specifically for restaurant owners. We know you don't have a lot of time to spend marketing or learning complicated procedures, so our tools are quick, and easy to use. If you're looking to increase your revenue and profits or want to work less hours, check out marketingforrestaurants.com.